In my last video, I talked about a few tips to get started in small business, and today I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on some other things that you should probably have set in place to get a small business off the ground. They're not, you don't have to have them, but in a lot of cases you kind of do have to have them, and I think that you should. We're talking about liability insurance and workman's comp insurance. I just want to tell you, 3 days ago when I did the last video, I was out plowing snow, and today, check this out. The sun's shining, and it's like 55 degrees. Crazy. Northern Michigan. But anyway, so liability insurance is, especially in my line of work, doing the snow removal and the tree removal, is very important. In fact, in most cases, if you want to do commercial snow plowing, you have to have a $2 million liability policy. These places, like I do snow removal for Home Depot and Walgreens and some Fifth Third banks in the area, and I have to prove to them that I have liability insurance, or else I won't even be able to do the work. I don't get awarded the contract without the insurance. If you're going to do residential work, most of your residential customers don't care, although it is a good idea in case you throw a rock through their window or any number of things that could happen. It's a good idea to have liability insurance. Like I said, though, it's not. See, the problem is somebody's going to say, "Oh yeah, you need liability insurance. You have to have it." The problem is there's so many other things competing for your money when you're getting started in small business that I think for the first year and a half, I did mostly residential work, so that way I could slide under the radar and not have to worry about the liability insurance. In the commercial work that I did do, it was work at like churches and places like that where they weren't really asking for liability insurance, and that allowed me to get myself started and not have to worry about just another payment going out, because like I said, there's so many things competing for your dollar when you're first starting out that you really have to pick and choose. And like I said, I'm not an attorney or giving legal advice here. It's just the reality of the situation is you cut corners where you can in order to get where you need to go in business. So the liability insurance, yes, I think it's a great idea. You should have it. It covers your own rear, but the reality is you may not be able to afford it right away. And depending on what type of business you get into, it might not be as big of a deal as it was for me. Now, the tree removal side of things, yes, liability insurance is definitely a must. And actually, more often than not, I do more residential tree work than I do commercial tree work. And I actually have residential customers ask for proof of insurance simply because you dropped a tree on their house. They want to know that you're covered. Liability insurance for the most part isn't all that expensive for like the snow plowing portion of things, or like the lawn mowing portion of things, if that's what you want to do. The trees, now that's a whole nother story. Once you get more than 10 feet off the ground, insurance rates are crazy because it's obviously really dangerous and it's very expensive. Workman's comp, we can talk about that a little bit here. That's something that you're not required, I know in Michigan anyway, to carry workman's comp on yourself. And you're not required to, like my dad works for me sometimes, I don't have to carry workman's comp on him because he's a blood relative. So for the first few years, I didn't have workman's comp insurance at all. That's not really something that you want to even concern yourself with until you have employees, because then it becomes important. And actually, what I do, it's the cheapest way to do it, is I have a policy set in place, because again, you start doing big commercial work and these places know that you have employees. They require you to have a workman's comp policy. So what I do is I have a policy set in place, but it's not even really a policy because I make my guys sign an exempt form. So basically, you're going to work for me, you're going to exempt out of workman's comp, meaning if you get hurt, you can't come after me. And that's probably going to change in the future, where I will carry full-blown compensation insurance on my employees. But right now, only being, a few years into this business, again, things are still competing for my money too. So I have to do whatever I have to do to do what's best for me and my family. It's not that I don't care about my employees. I do. It's just that a workman's comp policy on a certain number of employees is pretty expensive. So right now what I have is I have a policy set in place to make these commercial customers happy, and then I just have my employees exempt out of it. So it only costs me like $700 a year, and that's pretty cheap, where it would go up considerably if they didn't exempt out of it and I did carry a full-blown policy on them. So again, just getting started out, I wouldn't worry too much about workman's compensation, because you're probably going to be doing most of the work yourself, because you got to do the work yourself, because you can't afford a helper. We'll start talking about employees here coming up pretty soon, and that's a whole other ball game. But to get started, you should have some liability insurance, and then down the road worry about workman's compensation insurance. So thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.